Okay, so what we're doing today, as you can probably tell, we're indoors. That has nothing to do whatsoever with the fact that it's blistering cold outside. But the real concern, and by far the more severe concern, is that I'm out of meat sticks. Jerky, basically. And for any of those of you out there who don't understand the gravity of that situation, let me tell you. We're going to grind some meat, we're going to mix some pork and some beef together, we're going to put some seasonings in it, and then we're going to make an extruded jerky, put some cure in it as well, and put it in the dehydrator, and probably by morning or sooner we'll have some nice meat sticks to take on our outings. So, let's get to it. Okay, to start with, the beef that I've got, it's going to be a beef-pork combination. I wanted to get just a bit more fat into it for moisture. The beef I've got was already ground. It was just a special on ground beef, so that's what I got. So I'm just going to slice this into some strips that will make it easier to feed into the grinder. And then we'll get to business here. We'll grind up our pork, then we're going to mix in the ground meat, beef, and we'll put in some spices, a little bit of cure, because we are going to dry this, and it's going to dry over a relatively slow period of time, of course. Now the dehydrator does go up to 160 degrees, so we will get a sufficiently high internal temperature to make this safe to eat. However, it does take it quite a while to get to the point where it's all dried out. We don't want any opportunity for any bacteria to grow. So a little bit of cure will solve that problem for us. So, okay, let's get ready to grind. There we go. You don't want to make it too fine. I find that, and what I've been taught was, or what I learned, was that when you put your spices in, it's always wise to put just a little bit of water in or something like that. And I'm going to put the cure in perhaps a half a cup of water and dissolve it. And then I'm going to just dribble the water over the whole amount of meat here. There's about just over, well, about 3 kilos of beef, so probably close to 7 pounds, very close, and probably just shy of a kilo of pork, which would be pretty close to 2 pounds, 2.2 pounds in a kilo, so there's probably maybe 1.8 pounds, pretty close to 2 pounds anyways. So that's a bit of a pre-mix, just generally. Now I'm going to go and get my spices together, and we'll go to the next phase. Okay, as you can see, I've put the grinder away. I like to get it cleaned up right away, partly because I just don't like to have that meat sitting in the little cracks and crevices in the machine and in the gears, where it might get hardened in there and I can't get it out very easily. The other thing is I'm very particular about all my tools and equipment, and I guess it's 45 years as a mechanic. I've always been very particular about keeping my gear in good order. So I have about 1/3 of a cup of a Cajun type seasoning, and that's going to go in right here. I don't don't want it too hot. Maybe you know, that looks like quite a bit. So I'm going to hold off just a little bit. There's probably a couple of tablespoons left. I'm going to put the cure in a little bit of water, and I'm going to mix this all up. And before I actually commit myself to putting this into sausage form type thing, or meat sticks, I'm going to take some of that mixed up material, the meat, and I'm going to put just a little tiny patty of it in a frying pan, cook it up, and just test it for flavor. It definitely, you know, you don't want it too weak. You don't want to make the whole 7 pounds of meat into meat sticks to find out that you don't really like the way the flavor turned out. So this will be gooey, and I won't be able to touch the camera to move it afterwards, so I'm going to shut the camera off now. You all know what it looks like to get in there and get mucky, so we'll carry on with that, and I'll bring you back as soon as I get my hands cleaned up afterwards. Okay, I brought you back here before I get into the mixing because this part's quite important. You want to use the cure, because if you don't, the time it takes for the meat to dehydrate and dry into a meat stick is probably 7 or 8 hours. And there's lots of time for bacteria to grow during that time frame if you don't do something about it. It may or may not happen, but you certainly definitely don't want to take the risk. So this is the cure. 1/3 of a teaspoon per pound. I write it down on here. My memory's good, but not that good. So it's 1/3 of a teaspoon per pound. So I got the calculator and I worked out these. I'm still a pounds kind of person, even though Canada's gone metric. So I've worked out we have 8.18 pounds here. I converted it from kilos. So 8 times 1/3. So there's 1 teaspoon. 1/3 of a teaspoon per pound. So there's 1 teaspoon. That's going to do 3 pounds. We want to measure this pretty accurately. Now, you could just take that, it's a powder. It's actually, there's probably, in this whole thing, there's probably only like a gram of actual cure in there. What they do is you could never measure it so accurately if it was in its pure form. So they just blend it with salt. So there's already salt in here, so that's another thing to keep in mind. The majority of that almost 3 teaspoons that we put in here is probably 95% salt. So sort of err on the side of caution when you're adding salt into your spices, because you're going to get some saltiness from this already. So you could just sprinkle this salt powder in here and stir it that way, that's fine. But I'm going to put it, this is a 1 cup measure, so I'm going to put maybe a 1/2 cup or so of water in here and dissolve it. And when it's all nice and completely dissolved, then I'm going to sprinkle it in here. Then I'm going to get into the messy mixing. And when that's done, I'll bring you back after I get some clean hands, because I am cameraman as well as chef here, and there's no way I can touch the camera after I've started this work. Okay, changed my mind. I put the cure in here. Just quickly, while I'm thinking of it, when you mix your cure, if you choose to mix it with water as I do, make sure that you don't mix it with too much water, because if you get enough water in there and you decide you don't need any more water, but there's still some left in your cup with cure in it, now you don't have the right amount of cure in your meat. And you don't want to pour the rest of the water in, because you're going to get your meat too soggy. But some of that cure is in here. How do you know how much? How do you know how much more to add? So it can get very confusing. So put only a very small amount of water in there to start with, if you choose to use the water. And that way you can put all of it in, certainly, for sure. And then if you need more water, you can always add more. You can't take it out, and you can't figure out how to get the cure in there in the right mix if you don't do it that way. I also know that there are people out there that love to see squishy things, so I knew I'd better get into this. So I'm going to use the dogs will get that. I'll use one hand for a moment to get started here, just so that you can see all the good stuff. Wouldn't want to deprive anybody of the muck. And I'll make sure, we're going to do this for a while, because I want to make absolutely certain that this is thoroughly mixed. I want to make sure that the pork is mixed equally with the beef. More importantly than ever, I want to make sure that I just dribbled the water with the brine in it all over back and forth. But I want to mix this up thoroughly, because I want that to be perfectly mixed as best we can. And I can't really tell you how long. These things should last even without really refrigeration ones if they're thoroughly dried. If you like them not quite that dry, then just keep them in the fridge. I can't tell you how long they would last in a situation where you wanted to store them long term, other than by freezing them. But the reason I can't tell you is because they never last long enough to find out. Chances are pretty fair that they're going to be eaten up around the house, and not that many of them are going to survive to make it actually to the outdoors. But we'll try. We always say that. Never works. Okay, so now we've seen how it works. I'm going to shut the camera off with my clean hand so I can carry on with this properly. Okay, so what we have here, this little bit of pork here is what went through the grinder but was down in the auger, and there wasn't anything left to push it right through. So it was kind of torn up, but just 2 little chunks. So chef's privilege to have those as a snack. Here's a little patty that I made up. I've broken it off. It's going to be hotter than a pistol. Put this pan down. That looks very good. You can believe that it smells very good. Well, let's give it a go. Not bad at all. Okay, so we're all mixed, nicely mixed up. Now, I just tried it, as you saw. What I'm going to do, what I like to do with this, is I'm going to just put some saran over this, and I'm going to let this sit in the fridge overnight. I just like for those flavors to blend a little bit more. It gives it just a little depth of flavor that I'm sure it would be fine right now. Certainly tasted good. I don't mind it slightly spicier than normal when I taste it like this, because when you are out in the cold, a little bit of a hot sausage, something with a little bit of warmth to it, gives you the feeling of warming yourself up a bit. So we'll wrap this up, put it in the fridge, and then tomorrow we're going to take this jerky gun. It's very much like a caulking gun, and we're going to load this up, extrude it right into the dehydrator, and I'll bring you back for that. This old machine here, I've had it for a great long time. As a matter of fact, any of you who watch my videos fairly often have probably heard me say, gee, I don't know how it's very old, I don't know how long I've had it. And that's true with most of my things, because I am quite particular about maintaining things, taking care of them, keeping them cleaned or lubricated or whatever the case may be. So consequently, this stuff lasts quite a while. This is getting old and brittle now. As you can see here, the plastic is here chipping out. You see that? Chipping out. There's a crack over here, so there's going to be another problem along the way. So I think that it's going to be time for a new dehydrator here pretty soon. However, let me just get rid of this for the moment. One thing you want to be sure of when you do this is that every scoop or 3 sort of thing, you pack it down with this little ramrod, just gently, because what happens is little pockets of air, because of the irregular shape of this. I'll see. I don't know if you'll be able to see this on camera, but I'll try and show you when I pack this one down. A little bit more in, maybe you can see better. I'm not sure if I can catch it. There we go. Okay. Here, let's turn this viewer around so I can see if I'm on the. As you might be able to see, here and all around it are air spaces. And if you leave those in there, and of course they wouldn't be that big, but even little air spaces, when you inject these out or extrude them out, the air bubbles go with them, and then instead of having a nice long stick of meat stick, it just breaks it, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not as nice to do. So if you can, there, let's see, there we go. Now watch these air spaces, and you can see them right up in here and right up in here. We'll gently squeeze that air out of there. You don't have to put too much force on it. You can see them go away. So I do that along the way here. We just keep doing that till we've got it pretty near full. You want to leave, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch at the end here. And we back this up just a bit because it's, I just zoomed in there a bit so you could see that better. You'll be able to see better what I'm doing here. Because when you put the end on, you want to be able to get it on without having it too packed in there. So that's probably close. We'll just give it a little, you know, I can see that there's an air bubble down here that's getting landlocked in there, bubble locked, air locked, whatever. There we go. Still wants to stay in there. Pretty good. We can put a bit more in. I like to take it up till it's just at the base of the threads there or thereabouts. Doesn't really matter. There's no specific amount. You just want to be able to get the end on it. There. That'll work. Okay. Well, I've chosen a fairly large end here. I'll show you there's some different ones. There's one that's got 2 flat ones if you want flat meat sticks. But this is pretty straightforward to do. Let me move the camera here and get down looking at it so you can see it better. Okay, and just like a caulking gun, you just give it a squeeze, and here she comes. Give it a moment to pack up, and please nobody make any rude references to what that might start out looking like. There. And just twist it off, start the next one. And so the process goes, and we just continue doing this. And this is it. This is the tedious part. You just stand here and make meat sticks. Now I'm not going to keep you having to watch 5 trays of meat sticks be made up. And very shortly here I'm going to have to, if you can see it's disappearing down here, so I'm going to have to reload here in a moment. Now at this point, since there's a small amount in the end there, I'll just make these little short pieces so I come up to the center. Now we're down at the end, so I'm going to refill and continue over and over and over again until I get it done. As I was mentioning, there are other shaped ends that you can put on there. That's the one larger one. This one will make 2 smaller ones at the same time. So you just make doubles all the time. They're still round. And this one will make 2 flat ones at the same time. Now, depending on how your meat is mixed and how well it sticks together, these little flat ones tend to get, because they get smaller as they dehydrate, of course, they tend to get pretty brittle. So I've used it, nothing wrong with it, it's just not my personal choice. This one's not bad. It makes smaller sticks. Again, the smaller they are, the more brittle they are, but they're still a decent enough size to use, and it's quick because you're doing 2 at a time. This particular, actually that's the one I use most of the time, but this time I decided just to push out some of these guys. So I'm going to shut the camera off, carry on with this, and I'll bring you back when we get further along. What I also do here, the first one, I put them on, then I swiveled this a little bit so that they're going this way. This tray will be on this way, and then when I put them on this tray, I'll go back this way again, and that just lets more air up through. If they were all the same direction, these would probably, in some cases, overlap the ones underneath. There'd still be a gap between them, but the air won't come up as freely. So the biggest problem that I find with doing these is that I have a hard time finding a recipe that I don't like. And that's exactly what I said, that I don't like. The reason I'm looking for a recipe that I don't like, 9 times out of 10, these will be gone almost before I can get to where I wanted to really use them. Now, I'm making them today because the plan is to go ice fishing tomorrow. So my intention is to have some of these to take along. They're going to be probably tomorrow morning before they're even really dried out, dehydrated to eat. I'm going to set it at, eventually I'll have it up to the maximum of 60 degrees. After they've been in there for a while, I'll get my meat probe and I'll check the temperature inside and so on. The drier it is, the less the little microbes and bad guys can survive. So, but anyways, it's fairly safe because it's not going to be even ready until tomorrow morning. So if I go tomorrow afternoon, there should be a few left. That's all the trays I have that are in any shape to be used, and they're cracked up. I think this is one of the last runs that this machine's going to get. It's getting pretty tired, and it's pretty near time to get another one, I guess. It's been a good machine. It's not big enough anyways. So this is it. That's the whole process right there. I'm going to turn this on here in a couple of minutes. So the video is basically over. I'm going to bring you back tomorrow just for a moment to see how it turned out so that you can be part of the taste test. So there we have it. Turned out very nicely. There's just the tiniest bit of softness, I guess what you want to call it. It's like a kind of a stiff leather. I don't like it when it's completely dried out so that it's crunchy or crispy. But this is nice. It's just got a nice chew. It's also, it's hard for me to keep talking while this is in my hand. It's these things are great. I sometimes will take these and just take a little bit of dehydrated of the vegetable, you know, the dehydrated vegetables and some soup mix and whatever, and break some of this stuff up into it, and it makes a dandy soup if you're out somewhere on the trail where you've got the time to do that. So let's get down to it and give it a taste. Back. Flint's right beside me here. He's looking up at me with huge brown eyes thinking, come on, give me some. Alright. Tell me what you honestly think. Okay, it's gone. I guess that tells us right there. Something else I did. Now, I did put the full 1/3 cup of the Cajun spice into the mixture. In the end, that's what I ended up doing. Something else that I didn't mention or I didn't film. I put in a mixture, about 50-50, of the liquid smoke, hickory flavor, and mesquite flavor. And it was approximately a 50-50 mix. I didn't blend it, you know, mix it, you know, in a measure or anything. But in total, I put in probably a tablespoon. And I blended that in as well. So this has got an excellent flavor. I would consider it to be on the milder side as far as heat goes. You can make it to your taste. That's the beauty of making your own. If you like a different flavor than Cajun, then by all means, that's what you do. But there, obviously, you could take that 1/3 of a cup of Cajun and increase that to, well, I'll tell you, if you increased it to a 1/2 cup, you'd have some pretty zippy stuff. But this is awesome. I want to thank you for joining me. Give it a try. Don't keep spending your money on stuff in the store when you can do this yourself. Anyways, it's been fun. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please click the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, that would be awesome if you did. Hit the little bell on the side there so that you get notified when further videos come out. And everybody have a good week. And actually, I'll just to say, this is the last video, maybe, that I'm making on the editing program I've been using. I am an absolute deadhead when it comes to electronics. I had to buy a computer a year ago just to get started on YouTube because I had never done anything on a computer. I had no clue. So it's been a tremendous struggle to learn. You know, there's not really, especially up here where it's so remote, there's nowhere to go and get a course or anything on this. So I've just had to plunk away at it and figure it out. But anyways, I'm trying a new editing program. I'm going to finish this video on the previous one. So if this is the last video you ever see from me, you'll know why. I probably crashed and burned, but hopefully that won't be the case. And the new program has a lot more features in it and gives me more flexibility. Hopefully I'll be able to get a handle on it. If not, I'll probably end up having to come back to the original one that I've been using. But hopefully, with a little luck, I'll get it figured out. Have a great week. See you next time.